Hello and welcome. Today we're going to go over different access methods and settings within those access methods. So let's say, for example, I have set up this device on this aphasia page set, and I chose touch as my access method, but I'm interested in looking at other access methods or looking into the settings. So as always, we're going to go into our editor mode by clicking on the gear and pencil icon in the top right corner of your screen. A lot of times that's covered up by my name. I apologize. Then down at the bottom, you'll see the option to edit the button, the page set, the user, or the system. This is under the user settings. So we're going to click on user. Sometimes it scrolls up. Sometimes you may have to pull it up yourself. So scroll up there and pull up the editing menu. Over here on the left, you're going to choose the option for access method. And you can see that right now my access method is touch. My navigation type is swiping. So I'm going to swipe up and down to scroll. And then I do not have a selection feedback sound on. So when I click on a button, it does not make a noise to let me know I've selected something. If I want to change that access method and I've already set up TD Snapper my page set, I can always do that here. So let's say I'm going to click on this access method I'm currently on, and I want to try touch enter. This is an option if you want the user to hold down a button to select rather than quick tap to select. So you have to choose a hold time. Right now that hold time is off. If I click on that, I can use a hold time and choose how quickly I want it or how slowly I want it to take before it actually selects a button. And you can also choose a custom time. If I go back, you can also see if you want it to connect multiple taps, if you want there to be a delay between different selections, if you want it to highlight or outline a button as it selects, if you want there to be a selection feedback sound, and if you want accessible top bar navigation buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done in the top right corner. And you'll notice now if I select people, I have to actually hold that down for 1 second before it selects.
Family.
All right. And that also goes for the toolbar buttons as well, or the speak option
Family.
or clear. Every single button is going to be a hold time except for your top toolbar. All right. So I'm going to go back to my user here and go back to my access method and click here. The next option we'll go over is touch exit. So for this option, you can also use a hold time as well. And I actually have to let go of that button for it to select. So if I'm dragging across the screen, it's not going to select until I actually lift that touch or lift my finger or hand. All right, I'll go back into those settings and click on user, go to access method here. The next option is going to be auditory touch. So this is an option if you would like audio feedback of that button. This is great for someone who may be visually impaired. There are lots of different settings for this option as well. And you can choose a different voice for an audio feedback. For example, right now, my user has the voice of Ella. But for my auditory touch, my audio feedback is Darius. So for example, if I hit done here, if I were to click on places and then click on place.
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 All right, it's going to tell me what I am currently on before I select it with Darius's voice.
Place.
And then select with Ella's voice or my preferred voice that I would like. That way I know what I'm clicking on before I choose it as my selection.
Food.
Food.
All right. Other access method settings. I can go into mouse dwell and use a mouse. You can also choose a selection type. So am I using a switch or click for that, or am I using dwell for that mouse dwell? So for example, if I'm using a mouse here, I don't actually have to click. I can just dwell over that button. Again, I'm going to go back to my settings here, and I'm just going over the gist of it, not all of the additional settings here, but there's lots of settings to play with. Now, I am using my desktop, so when it comes to eye gaze, I do not have an eye tracker connected. But if I choose that option, you will have all different kinds of settings for your eye gaze as far as how long you want that dwell time before it selects an option, or if you want to use a switch in conjunction with eye gaze. So if you are dwelling over a button, you could use a switch to make that selection rather than dwell. Lots of different settings there. And then switch scanning. So again, if you're using one switch and you want it to auto scan, two switch, step scan, lots of different settings there. Auto scan, how quickly do you want it to scan across different options? It's on 1 second right now. I'll go back, and just as an example, I'll also turn on this zoom so you can see what that looks like. And I'm going to turn on a selection feedback sound. So I'm going to hit done here. So it's going to zoom as it goes along downward. And then if I make a selection, it will then go down that next row or column, however I have it set up. And if I make a selection, it will make that feedback sound. Now, keep in mind, I do not have a switch attached to my desktop right now, so I'm not able to use this access method, but just to give you an example of what that auto scan looks like here. So again, anytime I want to change those access method settings or my access method, I'll click on the gear and pencil, click on user, access method on the left, and you can see all of the options for your specific access method here.